All right. A very warm welcome to everyone who's joined us for this podcast today. We are with one more exciting episode of Vitrina LeaderSpeak, the podcast in which we speak to leaders within the film and TV entertainment industry across the world. These are folks, they are thought leaders, innovators, and true leaders of the entertainment sector. Today, I'm very pleased to welcome a very special guest. He's the president of the Spain Film Commission. And he's going to talk to us about lots of things about the Spanish film industry, but also about some of the programs that the Spain Film Commission runs. One of the key aspects that we'll be actually sort of talking to him about is a host of the programs that they are actually sort of running at this point to attract a lot of projects from around the world. Uh, Juan Manuel, warm welcome to you and a great pleasure in inviting you to Vitrina LeaderSpeak.
Thank you. Thank you very much to you and all the team in Vitrina. It's a great honor for us to be talking to you and all your followers.
And likewise, your voice today goes to more than 100,000 people within the Vitrina community from around the world. We have our community extends to 100 countries, and these are people in production, post-production, of course, in streaming, broadcasting, and the rest of the ecosystem. So again, a great pleasure to actually have you today.
First of all, I must explain a bit about Spain Film Commission. So many of your followers might be familiar with film commissions. Film commission is it's a type of entity in this broad ecosystem you have described worldwide. Everywhere you can find film commissions. It's state or national film commissions, or regional or local film commissions, or film offices are also called. We are a national film commission, so we are representing Spain as a country and as a filming destination worldwide. But we are also an association of local and regional film commissions. So this model, there's some other countries that use the same model, is especially adapted to Spanish reality because we are a very much decentralized country in political and administrative terms.
So we were actually discussing the difference between the film commissions in other countries.
Yeah. For answering your question about my background, I think it's important, it's relevant to stress that the Spain Film Commission, whether being a national film commission, as many others worldwide, almost every country in the world has a national film commission. We are a bit special, not unique, because there are other countries with the same model, but we are an association. So we are a national association of local and regional film commissions and film offices. So you asked me where I was based, and I'm based in Valladolid actually because I'm representing in the National Association the Valladolid Film Commission. So Valladolid is one of the 52 provinces in the country, and we are currently 48 members in the Spain Film Commission, and I am the president, as you said, just for the last almost year and a half, although I've been in the organization for the last 10 years.
Fantastic. And would love to also understand a little bit about your background. How did you come into the film and TV industry?
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit of that background would also help.
Yeah. Okay. So I am a member of the civil service. I've been working for public administration for more than 30 years in different sectors. And in the last 20 years, I've been involved in culture and tourism departments. So my background is not in the production field, but in the public management. On the one hand, promoting cultural activities, and within cultural activities, of course, film, it's a creative industry, a cultural industry. And of course, the management or promotion of cultural tourism. In that sense, and in my specific case, Valladolid is one of the centers of the history of cinema in Spain. We host the second oldest film festival, International Film Festival. So this year will be 71 years old. So there is a long tradition of our relation with the film sector in the city.
Understood. Thanks for that background. Super helpful to understand both your background as well as the way the film commission is structured. I was curious about what are the sort of the current incentives and the current programs that you're running, both domestically for the promotion of the local film industry, but also for international collaborations. If you can maybe give a broad overview, and then we can actually dig deeper into specific aspects of it.
Okay, so well, in Spain, and I think this is quite generally or broadly done worldwide, we have a different approach to national production and international production. For national production, for national IP products, There are two types of support, or three types of support. First one is fiscal tax incentives, generally speaking, at the same level as for international production. So there is a general tax incentive for any producer with an address in Spain producing national TV programs, especially TV series, film, feature films, documentary films. Second, there are grants. So the national government gives grants to national producers. And then there are a number of other supports coming from financial supports coming from regional and local authorities. Sometimes it's in a way of, or in a form of direct financial support under the state aid system. In other cases, the support is financing some types of expenses or giving for free sometimes some types of needs as permits and so on. The system is slightly different for international producers coming to Spain, because if you are an international producer, you are not going to get a direct grant for the national government unless you enter in a co-production. And if you enter in a co-production, your co-producer, your Spanish co-producer, is going to get that financing for the project. But you are going to get tax incentives. The only requisite, apart from the cultural test, as almost anywhere else, especially in the EU, is that you're going to have to hire a Spanish producer for contracting all the services in the country, and that producer is going to get the tax incentives and then give it back to you in the way you have agreed. There are other type of facilitation means that can be used that are not specific Spanish, but European Union ones. I mean, there are some funds that also act in an international way and are managed by the European Union. And there are also other ways of helping through financial institutions in the country. But generally speaking, those that I've explained are the most relevant ones. Accordingly, with our decentralized system, the tax incentives in Spain are not the same all over the country, but we have a national tax incentives and we have some regions that have special regimes for different reasons.
Interesting. I was actually aware, I was going to ask you about Canary Islands, for instance. You know, we were actually doing a interesting set of case study analysis of a lot of animation projects that recently started out last year, and a lot of those were actually they had taken the benefits from Canary Islands for those animation projects. It seems as if there are some of these hotspots that the country has, and maybe Canary Islands is a hotspot for animation. Would you say that?
Yeah, well, not specifically for animation only. I mean, for any kind of production, international production, it's the Canary Islands regime. Canary Islands is a region, a territory, a Spanish territory in the Atlantic Ocean, but it's quite far away from the mainland. So for that reason, the territory has had traditionally a special fiscal regime. It's been just since a couple of decades that there's been enforced a special regime for promoting audiovisual. So over the appealing fiscal regime for any other activity in the Canary Islands, there is a surplus of 20 points of incentive. So if you get for the first billion of investment in an international production, you're going to get 30% of tax incentive. In mainland Spain, Canary Islands are going to get 50%.
Wow.
And for the rest of the budget, above 1 million, the rate is reduced to 25% in mainland Spain and is reduced to 45% in Canary Islands. But thanks to that special regime I was talking about, that can be even increased slightly more. So considering that in the European Union, I think there is not a more appealing fiscal regime in all the European Union for sure, and it's probably one of the best in the world because, moreover, having that fiscal regime, you are in Spain. And being in Spain means that you have all the rest of the benefits of shooting in our country. I mean, safety, services, stability, a good connection. Of course, Canary Islands, you are a bit farther than shooting in mainland, but the regime, I think it's one of the best in the world for sure.
Fascinating. And if you can maybe explain the first part that you talked about, which is the tax incentives aspect, both in terms of what the caps are and then what is the percentage range that you can actually get depending on different provinces that you spoke about. If you can maybe give an overview of that part.
Yeah. Okay. So if we go to the general national regime, we now national regime applies or it's applicable all over the country. So mainland Spain and the Balearic Islands. Probably many of your followers know Mallorca, Ibiza,
Yes.
Menorca, these very popular islands for the tourism. And in that's also a Spanish territory, and the fiscal regime is the same as in mainland Spain. And also we have two small cities in the north of Africa, Ceuta and Melilla, where the system is the same. So you're going to get up to 30% for the first million investment in production. The minimum spending is 1 million euros in Spanish territory. And for the first million, you're going to get the 30%. From 1 million, €1 on, you will get 25% in mainland Spain. There is an exception for VFX and animation, and you can apply for the tax incentive with just 200,000 euros. The production cost has to be a minimum of 2 million euros.
Okay.
The overall, because there is this rule of the state aid cannot be more than 50% of the total cost of the production incentivized.
Okay.
If you go to the Canary Islands, that means that the 30% goes to 50%, and the 25% for more than 1 million goes to 45%.
Wow.
There are another two territories. The rules are the same for Canary Islands and Spain, and the cap, it's 20 million euros of deduction of tax incentive per production for feature films and documentaries. And in the case of TV series, is 10 million per episode.
Okay.
No cap in that sense. Up to that amount, I mean. Then there are, apart from Canary Islands and the mainland regime, there are other 2 to 4 different regimes, regional regimes. There is a region in the north of Spain, it's called Navarra, where they have just made an amendment very recently, and they are up to 35%, so a plus 5% incentive in that region.
Okay.
And then you have 3 provinces that everybody knows them as the Basque Country, which is a small region in the north of Spain with 3 provinces. But it's important to remember the concept of provinces in the Basque Country, because the powers of managing incentives are not in the region, as in Navarra, but in the province. So Vizcaya, Gipuzkoa, and Narva have a fiscal regime, special fiscal regime, an autonomous fiscal regime, and you can get up to 60%. But I have to be honest, it's not easy to get that percentage, because you have to fulfill a series of conditions. So we always advise our international partners and the people that come from abroad asking for the incentives, please ask for specialized advice. The Spanish fiscal regime is very attractive, but it's not easy. And although at the end it can be easy and it's very safe, you need legal and expert advice, because there are certain conditions that you have to fulfill. Okay. Then if you fulfill all those, let's say, conditions, the cultural certificate is needed, and all the expenditure in Spanish territory directly related to the production, it's applicable. And also the creative personnel, all the above the line spending, provided the professionals have an address in the European Union.
Okay. Okay.
Not specifically in Spain, but in the European Union. Has to be, or there is an extended area with 2, 3 more countries called the European Economic Area. All the spending in that concept, in those concepts, it's applicable. Then you will have a couple of additional conditions. First one is you have to mention that the tax incentive regime is applied to your production in the credits.
Okay.
And you also have to make a mention to and this is, I think, not that common in other jurisdictions. You have to mention specifically the film commissions or film offices that have collaborated in the shooting. So if you are shooting a feature film or documentary, you have to mention specifically, and that's a must, and it's something that can be forgotten, and it's a risk for the tax incentive. You have to mention specifically the places where you have shot and the film commissions and film offices that have collaborated. If it's an animation production, you have to mention the place where the studio, the Spanish studio in which you have work is based.
Okay. Wow. Fascinating. This is I mean, the scheme is definitely generous, and especially if you are able to use the right province with the federal ones, plus maybe even added to that the European one. It could
Yeah,
be
absolutely. If especially if you have a high budget production, and we are constantly talking to, well, about 80%, or sometimes some years it's even more, of international production in Spain in terms of budget, it's US, of course. And US productions tend to have very high budgets, and it's not rare that they combine, if they are shooting in different territories in the European Union, they combine incentives from different countries. Yes.
Understood.
You can do that also in Spain. Yeah, of course.
Got it. Oh, this is super useful. I was actually curious also about the grants that you mentioned. So the grants are largely for local producers. Again, if there's specific caps and specific categories that you encourage filmmakers from.
Well, there again, we have national and regional grants, but the regime tends to be the same. There is a condition of nationality. So these grants are for productions that are developed by companies based in Spain that have Spanish nationality. So the IP they produce is Spanish, or for co-productions with Spanish participation. Those co-productions can be majority or minority co-productions, and the regime varies, but it's technically it's complex to be explained, and there are many details. But broadly speaking, that is the national regime, and the national regime also has two different calls. One is for, let's say, commercial productions, productions that are going to be or are presumably going to have a commercial career, and they're going to be easily marketed. And there are others that we call it in Spanish obras difíciles. That means difficult projects because there is the story or the language. You know, also in Spain we have national language, which is Spanish, and it's widely spoken in many countries. More than 600 million people in the world speak Spanish. But we also have regional languages that we like to promote. So if the movie is shot in one of those languages, it's going to have special support too. Or if the director or a scriptwriter is a novel scriptwriter, or if it's women, or it's about stories that are underrepresented in the streamers or whatever, they will get a special support. And in the regional field, it's almost the same. The budget tends to be lower at the regional level, but the way or the scheme is very similar.
And is it right to comment that the grants are usually for more early stage stories, which are maybe in development, or how do you characterize the kind of projects in both those?
There are also, yeah, there are increasingly calls for work in progress projects for the development of projects.
Yes, right.
But there are grants for projects that are already
Production.
developed. Yeah.
Understood. Understood. So you talked a little bit about the qualifications part for both the tax incentive program as well as the grants program, right? And then I'm guessing that some of your co-production treaties, Spain has co-production treaties with some of the other countries. Is there
Yeah.
what is the added benefit for the in tax incentives and the co-production treaties? How does that come
Okay.
together?
Well, it's a very interesting question, Atul, because there is a big debate about co-production. I mean, co-production from a theoretical point of view shouldn't be just a financial
Yes.
aspect, but many times it's just a financial aspect. So a way of completing the finance, you need the finance for making your movie. In Spain, we have a huge number of co-productions. Spanish producers are very used to co-produce with European Union. It's true that there are programs in the European Union that give special support for co-productions, and even the Spanish government supports co-productions. And we also have a lot of experience co-producing with Latin America, with Iberian America, Hispanic America, for language reasons mainly.
Yes.
Spain has a big number of international co-production treaties with more than 20. I don't know how many so far, but we have with many countries. India, for instance, of course,
Right.
with all the European countries, there is this general European Union scheme. So the advantage of co-production, well, the first one, of course, it's financing.
Yep.
The second, and financing, because if you have a co-producer, your movie is going to have 2 or 3 or 4 nationalities. So you can get a financial support from 2, 3, 4 different national governments or even regional governments in Spanish case. And then presumably there is also an advantage for marketing. Because if many countries have market barriers or entry barriers for international productions or special support for national productions, also in the distribution, film festivals, well, that type of ways of promotion and distribution presumably are easier for co-productions.
That's right.
True. The truth is that not always happen. That don't always happen. The financial part, it's true. The distribution is not always happen, especially if the co-production is just for financial purposes. Because finally, we have to understand that the films, that the audiovisual products need to be appealing for the audience. And if you just make a sort of a puzzle, putting pieces together to make the numbers, the figures work, maybe the story will not work. And if the story doesn't work, it's going to be very difficult. That's going to be interesting for the audience.
Right, right. I know I can totally see that. And we see increasingly more and more projects which now tap into at least 2 to 3 countries and in tax incentives across those 2 to 3 markets. You mentioned that US was a very big market from where a lot of projects get attracted towards Spain. Which are I mean, if I were to ask you, which are the top 3 markets outside of Spain that typically come in and shoot and do their work?
Yeah, well, that's an easy question to answer. First one to shoot. So let's say incoming markets for production. So international producers come first of all from US.
Yes.
There is a fairly good amount of producers coming from UK also. That and also from the European Union. We think about the European Union as a whole, not the specific countries, but of course France, Germany, Italy are the most populated and the most active countries in the European Union, apart from Spain, which is a very active country going in co-productions or producing. But I would say that's first of all US for sure, then UK and European Union.
I'm so surprised to hear that actually, Juan Miguel, because all of last year, 2025, a lot of the news that we were hearing from our own members and from our network was that a lot of US projects were going into the UK, and that the UK was actually they've actually upped the game as far as tax incentives are concerned. There is a special VFX program that they run. So I'm really surprised if UK would actually then come into Spain for
Yeah,
British
yeah, yeah,
projects. I'm curious,
yeah.
how does that work? Are they dipping into
Well,
both the countries?
it's true that UK government has made a big effort to make a very much appealing tax incentives system and support system. So they are keeping a lot of production there. But there is a long history of relation between UK and Spain for
Okay,
many reasons. So I mean, some of the I'm remembering now TV series like The Crown, for instance,
right.
that almost all the locations out of UK, even if it was India, Gibraltar, South Africa, or US, were shot in Spain.
Oh my
So
God. Okay.
Spain has an advantage for locations, has a huge advantage, and we have a perfect sort of a combination between Spanish location and UK studios. So many
Okay.
UK studio companies or studio projects tend to look at Spain for that very good combination of tax incentives and locations, and of course themes, because
Hmm.
the Spanish industry, the Spanish audiovisual industry, has a strong and very high quality.
Okay.
And now we have a lot of staff that is trained in shooting in English, thanks to the strong presence of international, especially US streamers in Spain.
Right.
So now we have, for the last 5, 10 years, we've had, well, actually this year we were celebrating 10 years of Netflix in Spain. And now I think all major streamers have a base in Spain, a strong base in Spain, and they are
Right.
producing not only Spanish content but also international content in our country. So I think it makes logic that there are producers combining UK with Spain, and
Understood. And
yeah, and also the fact that the Brexit happened
yes.
means that for some kind of productions, US productions, or some part of the production, or all the production can be more appealing doing it in the European Union country as Spain than non-European Union country
And the
as
UK.
UK.
Understood. Understood. The other surprise when you counted those three countries was that none of the Hispanic markets were in that top three.
Well, there is a reason. The Spanish-speaking countries, the biggest one is Mexico. Then we have probably Colombia, Argentina. Budgets are not that big. So I
That's true.
was talking
That's right.
in terms of direct investment, direct production.
Only true. Right.
So there is not that such a big impact. There is a big impact in number of productions because many Mexican or Argentinian or Colombian production co-produce with Spain, and in that sense,
Understood. Understood. No, super helpful. Just to get that context. You know, uh,
uh,
the other question which I had was, how would you at this point rate the local industry within the Spain market? Like, if you were to sort of seek some improvement or some expansion, where would that be within the Spanish film and TV market in terms of either talent or in terms of
but
technicians?
but do you mean for international production or national productions or all?
For all. Is it a
Okay.
very well developed industry? Do you have enough facilities?
Well, there's been a huge change in the last year since COVID. The Spanish government enforced a national program that was called the Recovery, Transformation and Resilience Plan, which is a
Okay.
general plan for recovering the economy after COVID. Spain was very much affected by COVID. It was
Right. Right.
actually the country in the European Union most affected by COVID,
Right.
and well, supported also by European funding, European Union funding. This was enforced, and within that plan, the recovery plan, there was a specific vertical for audiovisual. So
Right.
that was a first, in my opinion, very clever and very strategic decision by the
Hmm.
national government. A lot of money and effort was put in the audiovisual sector, that it was already an interesting sector, but that has had a boost. And the boost has come not really in the talent, because Spanish talent and Spanish movies were already known as movies and TV series. Of course, I can recall, of course, the blockbuster, the Money Heist, for instance, Casa de Papel,
Right.
that everybody's watched in worldwide. So that was before this plan, but this plan helped to increase the number of movies, the number of TV series. So nowadays in Spain, we have over 1,000 productions per year.
Wow.
That means that there is full employment for
Right.
technical staff, full employment. I don't know any other sector in our country that can say we have full employment, but in Spain we have. There are some parts of the sector that would need some more action, probably new digital staff, and especially facilities. So in the last years, in the last 3-4 years, a number of digital facilities have been started. So now we have digital studios in Coruña. We will have in Canary Islands very soon. We have in Zaragoza. We have nice studios in Spain. But if you ask me, I think that's the part of the sector I think we still need to invest a bit more.
Okay.
Because the demand is huge.
Right.
The demand is huge. But in the creative part of it, in the talent, I mean, nowadays you are finding Spanish movies, not international movies shot in Spain, but Spanish IP, Spanish nationality movies in all major film festivals. Now there is a Spanish movie competing for 2 Oscars, which is not common. I mean, we have seen that now competing not only for the non-English language movie, but also for sound, which is technical. And that's not common. That's not didn't used to be common.
Right. Fascinating. Again, kudos to the local industry to sort of really up the game internationally. In my last segment, I wanted to actually sort of look at the future a little bit and ask you 2 or 3 key questions relating to the future. One aspect was that we are obviously seeing a fair amount of change in the industry. The biggest change that we've seen from a Vitrina perspective is that over the last 18 months, a lot of governments have upped the tax incentives. There is tremendous competition to attract more and more projects, especially from the US, from Canada, into those countries and those markets. I was actually wanting to understand if you had seen some changes because of that intense competition to some of the projects. Is it very competitive right now? Are you getting are you seeing lots of projects move out, or at least see that they are considering other countries and other markets as well?
Well, we will know that in some months. We have commissioned, or we're going to commission a special survey on national and international production in Spain, and I hope we will have it by the end of this year to analyze that. It's true. The Spanish tax incentives are very much attractive in the regions, in these special regions, and national tax incentives are starting to be in the lower part of the market. Not yet in the lower part, but started to be in the medium lower part of the market, and especially compared with competitors like UK, Portugal, Italy, or France, or even Germany, which they are working on that currently.
That's right.
We know that the margin, the capacity to increase the percentage is not huge. It's not huge. And of course, when we talk to the international producers, we drive their attention to the fact that there are other aspects that give you money or earn your costs in Spain, or increase your quality of life or production in comparison with other countries that can show you a big figure in tax incentives, but then you have to spend a lot in, safety or taking teams there, or paying more money to your team because they don't want to spend that much time there. The cost of the production in Spain is still lower compared with our competitors. But I think that there should be, and there will be, an increase in the percentage in the national tax incentives. I hope so, because I think that makes logic. But we also are claiming for other aspects that can make the tax incentives appealing. For instance, procedural aspects. Some producers coming from abroad sometimes complain that the the time, the gap between the moment the production ends and the moment they get the incentives too long.
Yes.
Because in Spain is connected with the annual tax declaration, corporate tax declaration. If you happen to finish your production in December, well, that is 6 months. But if you finish it in February, that can be more than almost a year and a half to get the incentive, and that's too much. Or some special approach to those markets that have a strong portion of cost related to local talent. I'm thinking in India, for instance.
Right.
Bollywood productions, as you probably are aware, they invest a lot in talent, and if the talent is not based or not does not have an address in the European Union or European economic space or area, they won't be in the budget for the tax incentive. So we should work on that, and we are making proposals to the national government to allow some kind of temporary addresses during the shooting, so the income taxes are paid in Spain, and so the effect is the same, something like that. So, and from a procedural point of view, and I think that if we could make more similar, more balanced the national tax incentives and the regional tax incentives in Spain, that would benefit all of us, because sometimes there is a stress between regions, and that's not good for the market.
That's right.
The second challenge for me is to be able to make the most of the, let's say, complementary products, complementary audiovisual products. We are a very popular touristic destination, our country, Spain. We are one of the probably the most active film commission in the world in screen tourism.
Right.
And we feel that there is a very interesting way of making money for producers and for locations out of the screen tourism. And we are very much involved in promoting programs to help the local destinations to create screen tourism products out of the productions that have been shot in Spain. And I think that's a very promising path we are working on. And of course, the third challenge is digital, is AI. It's how AI it's impacting, it's entering not only the production, but also the relation with locations. If we field commissioners, we traditionally have been very much linked to the physical location. And well, AI has an impact. There are countries that are reacting in different ways to protect the locations and the images and the use of locations. And we are very much interested in that because we, at least is my position, AI, it's part of the environment, it's part of the ecosystem, and it's going to be very much part of the ecosystem. So our role is not going against AI, but benefiting of AI, trying to drive AI in the best way for the industry, for the territories, for the audience at the end.
That's right. That's right. No, I appreciate the very transparent response on all the changes that you seek from your office. Thanks for sharing that. One other question that I had, you mentioned about AI, but one of the other big changes that we are also hearing is YouTube. Screen Australia recently announced that they are ready to actually support some YouTube programs and give incentives and grants to even some of the programs which are going on YouTube. I was wondering if you had a similar request from your industry.
Well,
about digital mediums.
Yeah, we have a request for supporting TV products, not specifically YouTube, but in Spain, just feature films, documentaries, and TV series that pass the cultural test valid or are good for incentives and grants.
Okay.
And there is increasingly difficult to draw a border between type of audiovisual products, especially in a time where an increasing part of the audience is no longer going to the cinema, to theaters, or even watching TV, traditional TV.
That's right.
So our thinking is very simple. We have to think on what we want to promote. If we want to promote audiovisual products. We should help, of course, those audiovisual products that are difficult or that have difficulties. It's like if you are supporting arts and crafts or traditional folk workers. Of course, that has to be done. But the tax incentives were not invented for those under-marketed products or products that were difficult to be marketed, but to promote industry. And the industry now is shifting, and we are aware of that. So yes, the answer would be yes. We would back any support to any relevant audiovisual product. The thing is that we have to be very careful because the public budget is not illimited. So decisions have to be made. We have studies. We have a very well-known study by the Spainfield Commission and Allsber and Profilm made a couple of years ago that showed that for every euro that the national government puts in a production, in a web tax incentive, 9 euros go back to the national economy. Not only in the audiovisual sector, but in many other sectors. So over 70% of the GVA, the gross value added, goes to other sectors with no audiovisual sectors. So that means that the audiovisual activity is very beneficial for all the country, for all the economy, for all the territories. So that would suggest that promoting new types of audiovisual products, it has also an economic logic. But finally, again, national budget is not illimited, and somehow it's not that easy to convince the finance minister of these new actions. But we are in that line, of course we are.
Understood. No, that's super helpful. And my last question really was going to be about what would be your advice and invitation to a lot of producers and studios who are listening to you today. If they want to consider Spain as a destination for their next production, how should they go about, what's the best way for them to understand really the market, the locations, and also the rules? Do you have websites, resources, brochures that you can direct them to?
I always remember an old advertising of I think it was washing powder when I was a child, and this ad said something like, "Look, compare, and if you find something better, buy it." And I think this is perfectly applicable to Spain. Just say to all the international producers and national producers, "Look, if there is a country that for the last 70 years, more than 70 years, has attracted international production, there must be a reason." And there is a reason. And there are several reasons, actually. We have a website, Spain Film Commission, where you can find all the information about shooting in Spain, about the tax incentives, about other benefits, locations, screen tourism programs, all the events we are in. So a look at the website would be more than a clever decision. Then, if you are attending a major film festival or international market, it's likely you're going to have someone from the Spain Film Commission or a partner of the Spain Film Commission, a regional or local partner of Spain Film Commission. So approach us, ask us. We are here to serve, and we love to talk about our country and the way the production can be done in our country. And finally, just see it and watch productions in your TV or smartphone or at the theater or wherever, and stay seated until the end. And in many times, if you like the movie, you will see that was shot in Spain.
Wow. No, fantastic. With that message, this has been such a lovely conversation. You've actually shared really a lot of details about the programs, but also a host of aspects about the reasons why Spain's been so successful in attracting such exciting projects. Juan Manuel, I'm so happy to have actually sort of heard you speak about the entire program. Thank you so much for talking to our Vitrina community today.
Yeah, thank you very much to you. And I would like to invite you to have a new chat soon or later this year. Once at least we have the study, the new study. I would be more than happy to share it with you and all your followers because I think that there will be figures that are going to be interesting for you all.
I would love that actually. So I will get your appointment the moment the study's out. But
Okay.
in the meanwhile, thanks so much for doing this today. Thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you so much. Thank you.